This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter.
This is Tiny at Obsessive Tiny on Twitter.
This is Mike, and my dogs are barking incredibly loud. Can you guys hear that? It's Mike.
Yeah, that was awesome. Just keep going. It's cool.
You can find me at I am Mike White on Twitter.
And this is ObsessiveViewer.com's The Obsessive Viewer Podcast. Oh, that's fantastic.
They're going to keep going, barking. I don't know what
cool.
that is.
It's cool.
My father-in-law is here fixing some things.
Oh, that's cool.
So they might be barking at him.
Nice. Well, welcome to... This is a milestone episode, guys. This is our 50th episode.
It is.
Yeah,
50.
This is...
And my 45th?
Right.
Ish?
Ish,
Something
yeah.
like that? Yeah, I don't remember which one I came in exactly.
Yeah. I don't remember. I think your first episode was episode 5 or 6, yeah.
Okay.
Then you also weren't on the Boardwalk Empire episode.
True. That's a good point.
Yep.
That's a good
I
point.
missed a few
And,
as well.
yeah, and Tiny
yeah.
was not at the, oh man. Did you release our Star Wars discussion, Maddie?
No, that's in the B-roll, but he was not in the Fall TV episode with Chris Spangle
Sure.
from We Are Libertarians.
Sure. Okay.
And then neither one of you guys showed up for the TV discussion with Tank from Title Penny Movie Podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
sorry.
we're all here now.
We are for our
And this is
50th
the
episode.
50th episode.
Yes, and we've got a lot of cool things planned for the future. I mean, next month we got Indie PopCon, and in June we're gonna have like a 1-year anniversary special episode.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it. Other than that, we got nothing.
We actually, I won't say it because I think it would be a real nice surprise.
Yeah,
But
I know what you're
we were
saying.
talking about kind of our summer project. And I gotta say, I think it's a pretty good one.
It's
or
gonna
at least
be
a funny one.
It's gonna be so much fun.
Yeah, I'm excited.
It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Mhm.
We always have fun.
Yeah, we do. It's gonna be fun. Unlike those other episodes where we just,
Unlike the other 50 episodes we've done.
Yeah.
This one's gonna be a good one. This one's gonna be a fun one.
It's like, oh great, I gotta talk to
we've
these.
had some good. Do you guys have any favorites from the last 49?
Every one of them except for the choppy one. No, not really, because that one was a really good one. And that I'm talking about, I think it was like OV050 or something. Pickled gallbladder. It was like one of our like extended potpourri episodes, but the entire thing is just chopped up because the mixer wasn't plugged in properly. So the whole thing, and that sucked because that was such a good episode.
It was.
Like I've noticed that if you listen to it, like, I don't know, kind of not in headphones, but like kind of on like a stereo or something, or on like your PlayStation, because I have all the episodes up on my PlayStation saved to it.
Placement.
Exactly. Yes. Sponsored by Sony. Not really. This isn't House of Cards, but but it doesn't sound too bad. But I mean, there were some really good discussions on there, and oh wow, I think I have a segue. Yeah, there was really good discussions on there, including a good potpourri section or whatever for me for the documentary Mea Maxima Culpa about the Catholic Church, which brings us into our topic of the week, which is religion and movies.
Yes.
That was my attempt at being like Mike, but
What's that?
just doing segues because you're kind of our go-to segue guy.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? It was a good try. It worked. I think you got caught up in the fact that you had a good segue.
Yeah, I did.
I got a little too excited.
It was it became self-aware or something like that, or I became too self-aware of it. So.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I got no segue to that, but religion and movies. I kind of recommended this or suggested this to you guys because of the close proximity to Easter, which was this past Sunday. And then I kind of realized this week, like, okay, Easter's over. I don't know if anyone's going to really care about it.
Well, I mean, this year has several religious movies coming out, and they're pretty big too.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in the theater right now alone, you have, you have God's Not Dead, Heaven is for Real, Noah, and Son of God.
It's timely.
Yeah, sure. And I've seen half of those.
Wow.
So yeah, right.
Wow.
How many did I just name? Yeah, I saw half of them.
That's daunting.
Yeah. And one of them was
good for you.
I know. One of them was Noah, which is like 2.5 hours long. So
Oof.
We'll get to that later on in the episode. But yeah. But as far as religion and movies go or are concerned, do you guys want me to kick it off or
go for
do it? Set the tone.
Okay, cool. Well, I have to admit that right now I'm a little sleep deprived because it's 8 p.m. 8 p.m. I woke up 22 hours ago to go to work and haven't slept yet.
Wow.
And I have to get ready for work in like 2 hours. This is going to be a fun night.
Yeesh.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Oh, thank you. But one of the reasons why I didn't go to sleep when at a reasonable time was that I wanted to squeeze in this movie really quickly because, I mean, it's only an hour and 25 minutes. It's a 2008 movie called God on Trial. Have you guys heard about this movie at all?
No.
Never have.
Okay, cool. It's written by a guy named Frank Cottrell Boyce. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Okay.
It might be Frank. I'm kidding. But he wrote Danny Boyle's 2004 movie Millions as a frame of reference. But the movie stars Stephen Delane, I think that's how you pronounce it, Stannis Baratheon from Game of Thrones.
And Thomas Jefferson.
And Thomas Jefferson from John Adams. Yeah. It also has Dominic Cooper, who played Howard Stark in the Avenger movies. Stellan Skarsgård, who, I mean, you know who Stellan Skarsgård is. And Rupert Graves, who plays Lestrade and Sherlock. But it's about a group of Jewish people that are in Alcatraz. And they've basically, at the beginning of the movie, they are in one big group. And then the Nazis have them going through, like, induction to the camp. And they're evaluating each one, and they're like, okay, you need to go left or right. So half of them go to the left, half of them go to the right. And then they go back to kind of a room where they just sit there and they have to kind of wonder, like, okay, well, half of us is about to die. Mm-hmm. So then they're kind of talking about this. They're kind of in their, like, barracks, for lack of a better word. But so they get into a discussion talking about why this is happening to them, because they're Jewish people, they're God's chosen people, and they're wondering why God is doing this to them. So it ends up that they conduct a mock trial where God is the defendant, or they're charging him with breach of contract for breaking their covenant. And it's I have a lot of notes here, bear with me. It starts out with, like, this present day tour group at Alcatraz, and they flash back and forth a little bit, kind of establishing the place.
Wait a minute. Is it Auschwitz or Alcatraz?
Oh, did I say Alcatraz?
Yeah, you said it twice.
My God, my bad. Auschwitz.
There's a difference.
There's a distinct difference. Auschwitz. Wow. Why? When did I say Alcatraz?
Both times.
Oh, damn it. I need to reestablish that I have been awake for 22 hours. Auschwitz. And so it flashes back and forth between the tour group and that it's kind of establishing the scene. Like, the whole story is being told by this a visitor to Auschwitz who's telling it to another visitor. And it's kind of, they're basically charging the charge is that God has breached his contract with the Jews and that he is letting the Holocaust happen. And the overarching scope of the movie, it's like an intense view of a group of people who are under stress, to put it lightly. But it's an unknowable stress to us. And it's kind of how it's testing their faith. And it's kind of going through my notes real quick. Mm-hmm. But it's like the I guess in defense of God is that side is saying that the suffering is a punishment, that perhaps it's the Jews who have breached the contract. But then the other side saying that they're going to prevail, and maybe this is like a cataclysmic divine event, that the survivors will live in an age of wisdom and enlightenment for the Jews. It's interesting the way it depicts both sides of the argument, because it's so, every line of dialogue that presents an argument for either side is just so, on one hand, it's so well written and well established as a line of argument, but it's got this underlying just coding of just really, really intense, horrific emotion tailored to it. And this is very much like an actor's movie, because it's extremely dialogue heavy, and it's something that the actors kind of really roll with. And there's some really intense moments where, like, this one guy is describing what happened when he was taken by the Nazis, and saying that he has 3 sons, and they basically, their sons were crying. He's pleading with the Nazis not to take his sons, and then the Nazis like, okay, well, you have 3 sons here, pick one and you can keep them. Wow. And it's just the way that he tells that story. It's like I got a little choked up. It was really intense.
Sounds like a good movie.
It was incredible, honestly. And what I kind of kept coming back to was that it felt like I was watching like a screenwriter, at least in the early parts of the movie. It felt like I was watching the screenwriter work through his doubts about his faith in God, and it was like he was putting that into the characters on the screen. And the whole movie kind of plays out more like a stage play than a movie. Kind of reminded me of like 12 Angry Men or Glengarry Glen Ross. But it's really incredible. I'm trying to, I have like 2 other notes. It's like for an example, there's like one of the guys says like, well, God's all knowing, he can do all things. And then Rupert Graves' character responds with, well, if he can do all things, why can he not purify his people without gassing them? And it's like there's these moments where those kind of like biting retorts and like really strong points that they're made from both sides of the debate. It's not like a one-sided thing at all. Like it's not, they don't present it as like, it's not like an atheist is writing the movie saying like, hey, this is why God's not there, or the other way around. It's just a really well-reasoned depiction of the debate, and like I said, it's just so packed full of this subtext, because they're in like it's the debate or the trial or whatever. It's not an opportunity for like weak faith people to be blasphemous or whatever. It's actually like a true depiction of religious doubt that's been cast upon people in the worst conditions imaginable. So I highly recommend it. It was really good.
Did you? Is it on Netflix or anything like that?
I don't know, actually. I think if you can get the disc, I'm sure.
Okay.
But it, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like I said, it's a dialogue heavy movie, so the direction isn't really. It's kind of this kind of. The direction and editing, like the camera work and stuff, leaves a little bit to be desired, but you're not really looking into it for the cinematography. It's just really spectacular content, and really thought provoking and incredibly moving too.
That sounds like that would be an incredible debate.
Yeah, and given that you visited Auschwitz, and just like knowing you, Tiny, I know that you'll have a lot of interesting things to say about this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah, and Mike, I'm sure you'll like it too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A show.
Yeah. So that's my first one.
Cool.
So let's see. Tiny, do you want to go next?
Absolutely.
Cool.
The first movie I'm going to bring up is probably, I would venture to say, the most relevant religious film for our generation. It is 2004's The Passion of the Christ, which was, I think it was written, I know it was directed by Mel Gibson. I think he wrote some of it too.
Okay.
It was, that movie was like a force when it came out. I remember it. It made like, I think worldwide it made like $500 million.
Jeez.
It's a really successful film, but also, you know, it had a strong message in it, and a lot of people wanted to feel the intense emotion that the movie evokes.
Right.
And I think that's why it's a good movie to bring up, because I think a lot of religious films that try to stick to canon, like something like The Ten Commandments by Cecil B. DeMille, or Jesus of Nazareth, stuff like that, they don't always work out because, you know, the stories are thousands of years old and they're a little dry, so you kind of have to make them up. But this is a very literal transcription of this story, which is, it focuses on the chastisement of Christ before he is crucified. It is an absolutely horrific thing. It spoke to me specifically because this is a very Catholic interpretation of this story. It took me back to a point in my childhood where I was at church with my father's side of the family, and we're all Catholic. And one of my dad's brothers, my uncle, was actually a priest for several years. And I remember we were at church up in Michigan City, where my dad's family's from. And it's a very old church. It's more like a cathedral. It has like 90-foot ceilings, and everything is incredibly decorated and beautiful. It's actually a really cool building. But along with that, they have some archaic art in there. And there is it's most commonly depicted as a statue. It is called Ecce Homo, which is Latin for, I think it means behold the man. I think that's what it means. But it's taken from the Bible, where Pontius Pilate presents Christ to the audience after his chastisement, essentially being tortured.
Right. And
the statue is absolutely horrific. When I was in that church in Michigan City, I got sick when I saw it. It's something that it was tucked into a corner because it's something that the church has tried to kind of get away from, because it's very disturbing and hard to look at. Essentially, it depicts Christ just covered from head to toe with lashes, and he's bleeding all over the place. Just a horrific thing, especially for like a 11 or 12-year-old to see.
Right.
So it kind of stuck with me. And so when I saw this movie, I got that same feeling. And I kind of wonder, is that how you're supposed to feel with this story? Because it is such a tremendous sacrifice that Jesus made in this story. It's very common for people to know that Christ was crucified and died on the cross, but not a lot of people know that he was, according to the Bible, he was horrifically tortured beforehand. And so I think it kind of, I don't want to be too negative here, but I think it kind of capitalizes on guilt. It makes you feel especially guilty that this person made this sacrifice for you, and you feel like you need to repay it. But again, I think in the context of religion, I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. If you believe this story to be true, you should feel guilty. So,
right.
That's an incredible tone that Mel Gibson was able to achieve with this movie. I mean, it is horrific. I was bawling like a baby when I watched it.
I saw it once in the theater, and I haven't seen it again since, but I just remember two words, exposed ribs.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it really sticks with you. But
I'm
yeah,
the same way.
Yeah.
I saw it in the theater, and I haven't seen it since. Probably never watched it again. Yeah.
That is on Instant, though, if you want to watch it again.
Yeah. And also, just to speak to the quality of the film, it's a really good movie. The creative choices, some of them have been criticized. They say it's anti-Semitic. I don't know. I don't know about that. I can't really speak to that. But just an incredibly bold choice to film it, having all of the characters speaking ancient Aramaic.
Yeah.
Which is practically a dead language. I think it's either Arabic or Aramaic. I can't remember which.
Aramaic.
Yeah.
Is it Aramaic?
Yeah, it
okay.
is. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. But
I remember not knowing what that was until that movie came out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, so yeah.
So that's an impressive choice to make for that movie, but it gives it an incredible authenticity. And just again, not skimping on the gore and the harshness of that story. It is an experience. It's not just a movie. It's an experience. You go through a journey as you're watching it, especially if you believe in the story.
Right.
It's incredible.
Small tangent, real quick. Apocalypto, thoughts?
I thought it kind of got a bad rap. I thought it was a decent movie. Again, didn't skimp on the horror and the gore. But maybe that's the right kind of tone to take for a movie like that.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
Okay. Tiny, do you remember seeing it in the theater with me?
I do, yes.
Yeah. Do you remember that we were late?
No.
Yeah, we were. I think we went into the wrong theater or something like that. And by the time we got to it, we missed the first 3 or 4 minutes. And I'm so particular with that I haven't seen it since, but I think it kind of set a tone for the whole movie. That I was like, well, I just missed the first 3 minutes and I don't know what the heck's going on. So maybe I need to revisit it because I don't really.
Are you talking about Passion of the Christ or Apocalypto?
Oh, Apocalypto.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so tangent over.
Mike, have you seen Passion of the Christ?
I haven't seen it. No.
Okay.
And I can kind of. I think we can have a lot of discussion about this. I have not seen it. I saw it. Or I didn't. It came out in 2004, so I was a junior in high school, and I remember my foreign exchange student at the time. He was from Germany, and he and my brother went to see it. And I remember when they came home, they were both very deeply disturbed by it. And my foreign exchange student Jan was a total non-believer at the time, but it still kind of moved him. And I remember just being shocked that he was as shocked as he was. And so it kind of made me wonder, or I guess be surprised at how popular the film was and how well received it was by, Catholics.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I don't remember much of the, the promotional aspect of it, I guess, but my coworker just the other night was talking about how I think he said that he saw necklaces, promotional necklaces, tie-in necklaces, I guess, that weren't crosses, but they were nails.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which that's a little, there's a word, bold, insensitive, I guess. But yeah, and I just kind of remember, I liked the movie, I guess. It was one of those experiences where I didn't have a deep emotional experience to it because I think it was just at the time I was a junior in high school as well, but I saw it and I was just I think I was so turned off by the gore and the just really, it was so intense and horrific to me that it was more of a I don't want to be here anymore kind of experience rather than getting emotionally invested, because it was more I was kind of squirming in my seat, kind of waiting for it to be over with because it was so uncomfortable, just from the violence.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like I said, it had a whole personal side to it for me. So
right. So
yeah, that's it.
Yeah. All right, cool. Mike, what's yours? Your next one, your first one.
Well, we all know I love horror, so I think I'm going to talk about a movie that's. You probably could have guessed I was going to talk about a horror movie. I might save The Exorcist for later, but I want to talk about Rosemary's Baby.
Okay.
Nice.
Have you guys ever seen the movie?
Yeah.
I saw it for the first. I think it's prudent to bring it up because there's the Zoe Saldana NBC remake miniseries coming out.
That's right. I forgot about that.
So I wanted to briefly mention that. I saw Rosemary's Baby for the first time, I guess it was either over the summer last year or during October. But anyway, I watched it. I remember being pretty impressed by it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we can talk about here on this episode is how it was influenced by, in the 60s, particularly 1968 when the movie was released, the fear of the devil. Like in a lot of movies and a lot of culture, there was this great fear of the devil. Lots of movies were based on it. And so Rosemary's Baby is kind of a reaction to that, or maybe not even so much a reaction to that, just kind of another cog in that machine. And so I think it freaked a lot of people out. What if my baby was devil spawn?
Right.
So why do you think that movie was so popular? What do you guys think? Did you guys like the movie?
I've seen it once, and this was probably maybe 4 years ago. And it was an interesting experience for me because I watched it and I thought it was just okay, maybe a little bit overrated like throughout it. Cause I think this was like knee deep in Shocktober. I'm watching all these like more conventional or contemporary horror movies that are like really like, oh, this is what's scary because it's in your face all the time.
Yeah. It's also fantastically dated.
Yeah, that too.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of it didn't really get me until the end. Which, I mean, the statute of limitations are pretty much, over for spoilers for Rosemary's Baby. But like that last scene where kind of I can only like remember bits and pieces, but where they're kind of looking at the baby. Yeah. That just really stuck with me as just super, super creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where all the little pieces here and there didn't quite connect until that last scene, to where it just all kind of clicked, and I was like, okay, I just had an experience. But yeah, I was impressed with it.
I liked it as well. I actually really liked it. I've only seen it once. I've been meaning to see it again. I just haven't for some reason. Probably it's Roman Polanski, right?
Yeah, and he has a bit of
that's why.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, I have a small boycott against him, but that's neither here nor there. But
right,
the movie's amazing. I think I hung on like every scene in the movie. It's incredibly tense. It's something that
yes, it is.
It pokes at your instincts. We all instinctually want to protect a pregnant woman or a baby. That's an instinct that's in every single human. And you have this pregnant woman who's being psychologically tormented throughout the movie. And it was just so creepy. I thought they used the setting incredibly well. It was creepy that it was in that apartment building sort of, and she was kind of hearing things through the walls. I loved it a lot. I thought the environment was great. So it's a good movie.
I need to see it again. Did that come out before or after The Omen?
I want to say it was after The Omen.
Okay, because I feel like...
No, I'm sorry. It was actually 8 years before The Omen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't realize it was that big of a despair or whatever. Okay. Because I think I may have connected to The Omen a little more, but...
Okay. You just remembered what it was like to be a kid possessed by the devil rather than be a woman who was pregnant with the devil's child?
Well, I have experience. I have experience in both.
Sure.
Both personal experiences of that.
Well, and don't we all really?
Yeah. I just think that there were more just more starts in The Omen, the maid or whatever hanging herself, and
sure. That Rosemary's Baby is almost just a thriller.
Yeah, it's almost entirely, or maybe absolutely entirely atmospheric
Yeah.
and all tone.
Yep.
Which I think
There are a few instances of scare.
yeah.
You know, there's the dead body on the sidewalk early on.
Mm-hmm.
There's like the when the devil is bedding Rosemary.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah, I do
definitely.
remember that. I think I was just going in expecting something different, and maybe if I revisit it, knowing what I'm going into, I guess maybe I'll have a change of heart. But that's not to say I didn't. I like I said, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good movie. Just something that it didn't really click for me until the ending. Yeah. But we could probably, I don't know what the rest of your movies are, Mike, but I think we should definitely do like a religion and horror movies episode for Sharktober.
Sure. Yeah, I think it would be excellent.
Yeah. But that's all the way in Sharktober.
Yeah.
Is that it for Rosemary's Baby? Should we move
Yeah, I
on?
guess so.
Okay, cool. I guess it's my turn now, right?
Mm-hmm.
My next movie is a classic that I actually watched in preparation for this. I watched it once in like high school, and it was one of those movies where I basically bought the big 4-disc collector's edition because I romanticized the big multi-disc collector's edition sets of DVDs. I basically blind bought it specifically because it was loaded with discs and features and stuff. But it's 1959's Ben-Hur.
Okay.
And I watched it when I was a teenager, and I was like, this is pretty good. And then it's been on my shelf for years. And then I dusted it off and I watched it, and holy crap, this is a really good movie.
Huh.
It's like a large scale epic, that some of the, I mean, I don't like judge a movie on its time frame, or like judge the filmmaking based on the time frame, I guess, that it was filmed in.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, just watching it, it was like, I'm like thinking like I'm kind of wondering how they did some of these effects and stuff like that. 'Cause there's a big famous chariot race, that takes up about maybe 15 minutes of screen time total, which is pretty freaking huge for a movie of this magnitude. And it basically, Ben-Hur, for those uninitiated with it, is a story of this prince from Judea named Judah Ben-Hur, who is betrayed by his friend, who is a Roman soldier. He's betrayed and sent into slavery, as basically it's an unfortunate situation that happens. A tile accidentally falls from a building that he's on and hits the governor or whatever of like the Roman governor that's in town or whatever, because the Romans have conquered Judea. And so he's sent into slavery, and it's spelled out by Masala, his former friend who betrayed him. He's saying, like, I'm doing this to set an example for all the people of Judea. And he's really cold and heartless. He actually worships Caesar as a deity, pretty much. And Ben-Hur is like, he's this Jewish prince who's like, he's like anti-violence, and he's very, noble. And so he's sent into slavery, and he spends years and years, and eventually he comes back, and it's a revenge movie. But where the religion aspect kind of really comes in is it's told concurrently with the Jesus story. Like, it starts out like the first scene of the movie, and the subtitle of the movie is it's Ben-Hur, a story of the Christ. And what I found interesting about it was that the movie starts out with like the Star of Bethlehem and the 3 wise men, and then the manger, all that stuff. Joseph and Mary coming to Bethlehem for the what's the word I'm looking for? The census.
Mm-hmm.
All that stuff. And I mean, it's beautifully shot. Like, I was watching that, like, I was like really hooked into it. And then from there, the whole movie kind of takes this thing where like here and there there's like references to Jesus and like this to this man who's preaching and performing miracles and things like Ben-Hur is he's being marched with a group of slaves and stuff through the desert, and he just like they stop outside of Jesus's house and or workshop or whatever, and so like one of the Roman soldiers is like, no water for him, referring to Ben-Hur, and then Jesus just gives him water, and then it's kind of like that kind of tangential relationship with the Jesus story is that he's kind of pops up here and there, and then by the end of it kind of has this theme of Judah Ben-Hur is seeking this revenge, and eventually he's trying to find his sister and mother, and it's kind of told as people are telling him about Jesus and the teachings that Jesus is having, and it's kind of it's an interesting reflection of Jesus' teachings onto Judah Ben-Hur, who he isn't really, I mean, he's preoccupied with other things, so he's not really, he's not all like going to watch the Sermon on the Mount or whatever, but it's happening as he's doing these things, and it's kind of affecting him in ways that he's not really expecting. And another thing, like I said, the chariot race is just, I mean, it's an incredible piece of filmmaking, especially for the time. It's just, I mean, it was a very engaging, very tense. It's where it's famous, has a famous like spikes on the wheels of the chariot that to cheat, pretty much. I won't give anything away, but there's an intense naval battle, and there's some really surprising bits of violence. Like there's a chafed ankle of this guy that's trying to get his chain undone, and an amputated hand, and a spear that's thrown through the back. So there's some interesting bits of violence in it, especially for a movie from '59. Yeah, that's my spiel for that. There's also, it has an interesting look at how lepers were kind of treated, and like how they were displaced and like pariahs.
Oh yeah, isn't there a scene where they go to a leper colony?
Yeah, the Valley of the Lepers. It's featured in pretty heavily in the last act.
Right. The only thing I remember from that movie is the chariot race.
Yeah. Oh, that's a very memorable scene.
It is. It's so ahead of its time.
Yeah, iconic even.
Yeah.
And then my final note about Ben-Hur, and I can have you guys take the floor about it if you have anything to say about it, but James Cameron could really learn a thing or two from, I think it's William Wyler, and the writer Wallace, regarding pacing, because the movies.
To be fair, I don't think James Cameron cares.
I don't think so either. Absolutely. I think he should care, because I mean, this is I think it was like 3.5 hour movie, and I mean, I was set throughout it. So yeah. Yeah. Do you guys have anything to say about Ben-Hur? Have you guys seen it?
I've never seen it.
Okay.
I feel bad because you spent so much time, but I've never seen it.
Oh, that's all good.
I actually own it.
Yeah?
But I've only watched it the one time when I was a teenager. Probably because it's 3.5 hours long.
Exactly. Do you have the big 4-disc collector's edition?
I don't even remember what kind of version I had.
You suck. I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
I had completely forgotten about the whole Jesus subplot to it.
Yeah.
Which is indicative of
right.
things.
Spoiler alert, he gets crucified at the end.
What?
But and it's actually, I mean, like along Ben-Hur's like journey, he meets Pontius Pilate and he witnesses. It's really cool. Well, it's really interesting the way that the Jesus story is wrapped up into is interlaced, I guess, with Ben-Hur's story. It's just really cool storytelling, actually, because it's basically the Jesus story is a backdrop to this revenge story that has bigger themes that tie in with Jesus's teachings. It's really interesting implementation of both kind of things. I dug it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, it's at its list now.
Nice. Yeah. So, Tiny, what do you got for us?
Sure, I have a lighter one to mention this time. It's actually, I guess it's just like a full-blown comedy, pretty much. Actually, there are a couple religious comedies we could bring up, but this one is Keeping the Faith from, I think it was like 2000, 2001.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was Edward Norton's directorial debut.
Right.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it, it's a really good movie. It really is. The acting is phenomenal. It was written really well. And the best part about it is it's about these two clergymen or clerics from two different religions who are best friends. It's and that sounds like the plot of a comedy. It sounds like the beginning of a joke, but it's not presented that way at all. Like their friendship is so genuine in the film. It feels like Ben Stiller and Edward Norton are actually best friends. It's really well done in that aspect. And one of the more interesting parts of the film is that both of these guys end up falling in love with the same girl that they knew from their childhood, who comes back into their lives, and once they're members of their respective religions. But it's just an interesting depiction of how how we treat our clergy. Because in Catholicism, priests can't marry and then to be celibate. But in Judaism, I think again, I'm uneducated on the facets of Judaism, but I think in all branches of Judaism, rabbis can marry. I don't know if there's any denominations where they can't. I think they all can. So, this priest falling in love with this woman is a huge deal. It's a big problem for him. But for this other guy, you think, oh, that's nice. He found a girl. He can get married. Well, it's not, because he's Jewish and she's not. So he still has this huge thing hanging over his head that he's married to this girl, or I'm sorry, that he's in love with this girl and he wants to start a life with her and get married to her, but she's not Jewish, and he's a rabbi. It kind of matters, and of course, given the title, it all comes down to faith. I won't spoil it, but it's just all about, you think it's about having faith in God, but it's actually about having faith in your fellow man and your peers and your loved ones. It's a really nice story. It's really funny. Ken Jeong, or no, wait, is that his name? I can't remember. Is that his name? The Asian actor from Lost.
Oh,
the first Saw movie.
That's not Ken Jeong, but I know who you're talking about.
Ken Lang.
Ken Lang. Is it Lang or Lung?
Long or Lang. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Yeah. Ken Lang. Got the first name right.
Yeah, yeah.
He has a hilarious cameo as a karaoke machine salesman.
Yes. That is
Which
honestly
sounds like a joke.
Yeah. That's honestly like the only scene of the movie that I actually remember.
Yeah. It's hilarious. Yeah.
I need to watch that again.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a great movie. It kind of this will be an overarching theme in all three of the films I talked about, but it does also kind of address how religions kind of use guilt to sort of keep people in line. Again, not to be negative, but this priest feels guilty about a completely natural thing of falling in love with this woman, and the rabbi feels guilty about falling in love with a woman who's not Jewish and wanting to marry a woman who's not Jewish.
Right.
So that's it's an interesting part of the film, but in the end, the way it's worked out it's a pretty beautiful thing. It really is. It's a nice story.
Nice. Yeah, I need to see it again. Mike, have you seen it?
Yeah, have you seen it, Mike?
Yeah, I have. I saw it once. My brother got it, I think, on DVD one year for Easter or something like that. Interestingly enough, my brother's a big Edward Norton fan, and he let me watch it, and I thought it was pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah, it was so long ago, and it was ultimately kind of forgettable. So I can't really say more than that, but I didn't hate it.
I can see that. I mean, I'm at the time I saw it, I was really, really diehard Ed Norton fan, and I still am. But even like going into it, I was like, okay, this is okay. This isn't. It's not it's not Death to Smoochie bad, but I mean it's still pretty. It's good, but it's kind of like in the canon of his filmography, it's kind of toward the bottom. That's not to say anything negative about it. Just he has a really impressive filmography.
True.
True. So it kind of falls by the wayside.
I think it was my first exposure to Jenna Elfman, because I never watched Dharma and Greg. Excuse me. But she was fantastic in it. Just absolutely lovable, and like, I'm sure most of the guys that watched it probably had a crush on her.
Nice.
Not to mention the fact that she's gorgeous. So I was really impressed by her. I haven't seen her in much else, unfortunately.
Yeah, I feel like she was
Can't
in
Hardly
something
Wait.
recently. Yeah, I was just gonna say my first exposure to her, and probably Mike's too, is Can't Hardly Wait. If you don't mind me speaking for you.
No, that's fine. I did watch Dharma and Greg a little bit, so
really?
I think actually that might have been my first experience with her.
Okay.
I don't know. I could be wrong.
Yeah. I'm about to be really snarky, but you know what the best thing about Dharma and Greg is? It's about how one of them's a free spirit, but the other one is just a straight-laced guy. You don't see that ever in every other show.
No.
I think that was like Chuck Lorre's first show by himself or whatever.
Oh, really? Huh.
I think he created it.
That's right. I remember in those cards at the end of his other shows, he references it.
Yeah.
This is back when I watched like 4 seasons of Big Bang Theory.
Right.
Funny.
Yeah. Is it? No.
So,
Well, that's good.
Mike, you are up, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I'll keep it funny like you did, if you don't mind, Tiny.
Sure.
I'm going to reference, this is a comedy, but it's also kind of a sad film because it has to do with death. And I'm referring to the death of Jim Carrey's career. Which was done through Bruce Almighty because his career died after that. I'm joking. Bruce Almighty, really though, I think is like his last great Jim Carrey-y role.
Yeah, I can't.
I mean, Yes Man was, I guess, kind of a small hit, but Bruce Almighty was his last great role, I think.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens with Dumb and Dumber 2.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Everybody has seen Bruce Almighty. I think it's pretty hilarious. It was our first. It was our introduction to Steve Carell.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he was on the Daily Show at the time, but Bruce Almighty kind of broke him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
I have a funny anecdote if you don't mind me interrupting real quick.
No, not at all, please.
That scene with Steve Carell reading the news where Jim Carrey's just messing with him and all that. When I first saw it, I mean, I was in, when was that? That was like 2000, was that 2003, 2004?
Something like that.
Anyway, I was a teenager in high school, and like, as I was watching that scene, for some reason, all I could help to think was, wow, Jim Carrey's really funny. And I didn't, for some reason, like, I mean, this may have just been my initial thought, and after like later that night, I thought, wait, that guy that actually performed the scene was really funny. But I felt like it kind of, the focus of it was kind of skewed toward Jim Carrey a bit, because there was a lot of like quick shots to him, like manipulating him and all that, and it's kind of like he's making all these goofy faces and everything. When you kind of peel it back and look at it, Steve Carell's performance in that scene is just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
He almost stole the whole movie with that scene.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna have to YouTube that later. But yeah, and I loved it. I loved that scene. The movie as a whole, like, you know, Mike, you can continue. I didn't mean to bogart your.
Oh, that's okay. No, not
spiel.
at all. Just only a couple more things to say. Morgan Freeman was excellent in it. Jennifer Aniston, I think it was one of the first movies that could show that she could hold her own beyond Friends. I know that Friends wouldn't end yet for another year after Bruce Almighty was released, but I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Bruce Almighty was kind of her first big movie. I mean, the Rockstar was out, but that
Yeah.
wasn't a hit. The Iron Giant is kind of a cult favorite. Office Space is kind of a cult favorite. So I think, like, in terms of leading woman, Bruce Almighty was her first. So,
Yeah, true.
but it's good. It's just a great movie. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Incredibly blasphemous,
Yeah, absolutely.
but in the best way possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah. Just in the, talking about religion.
Right. Yeah, I guess I should have spun it around to that.
Just kidding.
Sorry.
No, it was. I like the movie. Evan Almighty. Never got around to seeing it. Yeah,
Oh,
how
you
about
didn't?
guys?
I actually
No.
saw it.
How was it?
It's not good.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Pretty awful.
No.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Should we circle back to me?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well, I've got. Let's see. Have we talked about Noah yet on the podcast at all?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Me and Tiny both saw it, and Mike, have you seen it yet?
I have not.
Okay, it's
And when you say yet, I should add that I probably won't ever see it.
okay. I mean, I'm an Aronofsky fan. For the most part, I mean, I appreciate him as a filmmaker immensely. Requiem for a Dream is one of those movies that I watched once in high school and thought, okay, I thought two things coming out of it, thinking one, this was like early high school. I saw it, like one, I thought, okay, I'm never going to do drugs. and two is, and I'm never going to see this movie again. And I'll see it again, of course, but it was just one of those movies that affected me so strongly, and I had such an emotional reaction. And a lot of his other movies, I mean, The Fountain took a couple viewings to really appreciate. I appreciate the filmmaking and all that, the effects that were made dirt cheap, and the really just weird story. But with Noah, I'm torn because I really liked the visuals and there are some really cool, I mean, obviously it's the story of Noah and Noah's Ark. But there's some really cool, like, time-lapse shots in the dreamscape shots, because it's Russell Crowe as Noah, and he has these visions. It's not, God doesn't speak to him, like, through the clouds. He has visions in his dreams, which I thought was a really cool narrative device, to deliver this aspect of the story. And it's depicted in really cool ways, and like there's like a monologue at the beginning of the movie that kind of goes through all of the creation story and the serpent and Adam and Eve and all that. That's really told in a really cool visual style. But the movie as a whole, I thought was just okay. There's elements of it that just seemed a bit off, like it was a bit fantastical. It was a bit overly fantastical. Like he incorporated to kind of what's the word, to kind of reconcile the fact that this elderly man, or elderly in the story, man is constructing this large ark by himself. To incorporate that, he incorporated these, or to reconcile that, he incorporated these rock monsters that are like fallen angels that are weird ent-like creatures from like Lord of the Rings. And it kind of felt like a little disjointed and a little kind of weird to me. But the story, once they get on the ark, there's also other some interesting conflict with man, like a tribe of men who want the ark and all that. But once they get on the boat, there's some interesting stuff with Noah. He kind of has some interesting interpretations of, they never say God. They just refer to him as the creator, his plan and everything. And he has interesting interpretations and things like that. And he almost becomes a villain of sorts, but it's a really interesting incorporation of the story, or interpretation of the story, and expansion to incorporate some other themes and stuff. And again, visually interesting. But I mean, it's overall kind of, I don't want to say forgettable, but kind of, I'm kind of lukewarm on it. So Tiny, what did you think of it?
I probably liked it less than you did. I thought I agree with you on the visuals.
Mhm.
Darren Aronofsky never fails in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
But the dialogue was just super hammy to me.
Yeah.
Just didn't care for it at all in that respect. I thought the ancillary characters were very underdeveloped and just not didn't give a whole lot to the story. Maybe in the third act they kind of did.
Mm-hmm.
Especially his wife and a couple of the other kids. At that point, they're the only characters in the movie, obviously.
Right.
But I don't know, and I thought some of the performances were just a bit hammy as well. There's a few parts where Emma Watson and Jennifer Connelly kind of break down, and I just thought it was just a little over the top for me. Yeah. Logan Lerman, that dude is just the best. He's one of my favorite young actors.
Mm-hmm.
And he made the best of a bad situation in this movie, in my opinion. His character was not well done, in my opinion. The conflict they invented between him and his father was it was something that needed to be said. But the way they said it was super clunky.
It needed to be shown more than said.
Yeah.
Because it was really, really on the nose.
Yeah.
And really lacking in a creative capacity.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I kind of wonder, like, is this kind of the best we can get when it comes to this story? Because when you look at the story as told in the Bible, it's like 3 paragraphs long.
Right.
That's the whole story.
Yeah.
And it's very dry. And you have to, if you want to make this into a film, you have to take creative liberties. And
right.
A lot of people have issues with that. Well, okay, if that's how you feel, then you can't get a Noah movie, or you can't get a Great Flood movie. So I don't know if this was necessarily the best way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting. I give him credit for going all in.
Yeah. In terms of the best interpretation of the Noah story, I think that he came close to hitting the mark on this. If he had cut out pretty much everything that didn't have to do with his inner struggle with the creator while he was on the ark, I'm dancing around spoilers here, but there's a subplot on the ark that I was just completely disinterested in. And
I was pissed there were no dinosaurs.
Yeah.
I wanted to see some dinosaurs really bad.
Yeah. But the other thing, I think that there is a good story to tell, like a good way to tell this story. And I think they hit it very close to the mark by incorporating Tubal Cain, I guess. Because I think that like him and his whole tribe of men that are like really like they're the personification of the reason why the flood is happening. But it is told in a kind of a preachy, like vegetarian kind of thing, instead of like, I don't know if that's the intention, but it's like pretty much the extent of them, of the evilness of man is them hunting animals.
Huh.
And that kind of, I mean, I thought like, man, that they just missed a huge opportunity. Like they showed some things that are like the evilness of man. Cause in the Bible, it says, all thoughts of man were consumed by pure evil and all that. And that's why the flood happened. But I feel like that could have been much, much better personified, through, Tubal Cain and his cronies in the movie. And they could
really see, because I'm sorry to interrupt. I thought
that's fine.
That was one of the most effective parts of the movie.
Oh, really?
Where they showed kind of their camp, when they set up this camp to like take over Noah and like take over the ark from Noah.
Mm-hmm.
They set up this camp to like build these weapons to go to war with them, essentially. And they show us like the inner workings of this camp, and it was incredibly effective to me. There was like no music, and it was just these eternal screams of terror coming from all corners of this camp. Men were just stealing women away, and they were ripping these animals apart and eating them whole, eating them raw. It was incredibly disturbing to me. I thought that was, again, an effective representation of evil.
Yeah, but I think that was like the only scene of that kind in that movie. There was like one scene of that, unless I'm mistaken, unless I'm forgetting something.
Well, in the opening scene, the prologue, essentially they murder a man to steal his land to mine it.
Oh, right. Yeah, but I just feel like it would have been kind of better if it was just more of like, for lack of a better word, good versus evil. Well, I'm not, because Noah's just one person, but if it was sprawled out more, I guess, like the evilness of man is sprawled out throughout the movie instead of these, because a lot of the movie is this subplot involving Logan Lerman's character and all that stuff. I kind of feel like they could have cut that out and made it more about Tubal-Cain trying to get the Ark as much as possible. I mean, they could have left in the stone monsters or the stone figures or whatever and have them fight him a little bit more, but I don't know. It's just something about the storytelling was a little clunky to me.
Yeah.
Yep. So
it's turned into a mini Noah review.
It did.
But I gotta ask you guys, is it better or worse than the made-for-TV 1998 film starring Tony Danza called Noah?
I have no idea.
Oh, damn it.
Oh, nice. Do you guys remember that movie?
I don't. I'm gonna seek it out though.
It's kind of Evan Almighty before there was an Evan Almighty.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
A guy learns how to appreciate his family through building an ark.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was Noah. What else do you guys got? I had so much more. We're at an hour, but we can keep going because
we are. Well, what else did you have?
Well, I had three technically, but two I was gonna bunch together. Do you mind if I just go, or do you guys want to go ahead of me?
I'll do one more.
Okay.
It's kind of my turn.
Right.
Not to be a jerk.
No. That's fine. That's why I asked.
It's quick. The movie is The Believer.
Oh yeah.
Which is a heavy choice for this because it's an incredibly anti-Semitic film.
Mm-hmm.
It involves a man who becomes a neo-Nazi. I appreciate the film almost strictly for Ryan Gosling's performance.
Mm-hmm.
To this day, I think it's his best work. It was sort of, I don't know if it was his breakout, but I think people really started to take notice of him after it. It's based incredibly loosely on a true story about a man who became a semi-famous, not famous, but he became known, I don't want to spoil it, in the New York area as a neo-Nazi. And they come to find out that he was, I think he was like 100% Jewish, and he went to Hebrew school and all that stuff. He was devoutly religious as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And so this movie is about this man who throws his faith away completely and becomes the antithesis of it. He walks around with a shirt that has a giant swastika on it. He lifts weights, typical neo-Nazi skinhead. And he eventually, I don't want to spoil it again, but he eventually, again, to come back to my theme, I think guilt gets the better of him. And he ends up kind of coming back to his faith and reaffirming his belief in these practices and this dogma, this religious canon. It's like I said, I think 80% of the film's quality goes to Ryan Gosling's amazing performance. He's so intense, and just a lot of people compared it to Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver, which I think is a good comparison. It's a great movie, and I love the journey his character goes through. I love it. If you haven't seen it, you have to see it. It's one of my favorite performances. So
yes, I saw it once, and it was you loaned me your copy, and I liked it a lot. I just don't remember much of it, but I do remember one scene where they're in a synagogue, I think, or something, and I want to say they're like trashing it or burning it or something. And like there's a scene where he's like reading the Torah or he's looking through the Torah. And I feel that's just what jumps out to me about the movie, that I remember that.
Yeah, he sees the words and he just has this moment where he's like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Because it's like, again, uneducated on Judaism, but I believe the Torah is like, it is the literal word of God, but in the synagogue they have these scrolls that the Torah is written on, and I think it's called the flame alphabet. And it's supposed to be like it's kind of like a relic, or like I don't know if it's like a physical representation of a covenant or something like that, but it's an incredibly sacred thing. Like, Christians and Catholics, we just kind of carry around Bibles. We don't hold the physical Bible in any kind of necessary regard, not really, unless it's like an individually significant Bible. But it's different for the Torah in each respective synagogue. It has, it's a really special thing, and he sees it and he just has this reaction to it, and he's just like, I think it's a huge revelation to him in that moment that he's kind of lying to himself. So yeah, that's one of the better scenes in the movie.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. Mike, anything?
Yeah, I'll do a quick, like you said, because you have a bunch, and I'd like for you to round it out. Okay. But I guess I'll just talk about the pair of Kevin Smith religious movies.
Nice.
One of them is a comedy, and one of them is very much not a comedy. Right. Dogma, which is a movie I saw on VHS after Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. So when I saw Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, I didn't really get the whole lore that they were playing on. But when I saw Dogma, I appreciated it in a new light. It's a really funny movie. It's Matt Damon and Ben Affleck before people hated Ben Affleck and then loved him again. So he's really good in that. I don't know. It's just a fun watch. It's really funny. Alan Rickman is particularly fun to watch in that movie. Red State is the other one. And I just love, I guess I bring them both up because they take two very different stances on religion. And Kevin Smith is a religious person. He's gone on to say that he has belief in God. I don't know that he is necessarily Catholic, but he is definitely not a member of the Westboro Baptist Church. And if he did that movie that like extended Q&A with Kevin Smith about Red State. I wish I could remember what it was called.
I think it's called, I want to say it's called Kevin Smith is Going to Hell.
Could be.
Don't quote me on that though. Or Burning in Hell, something like that.
So anyway, he basically talks about, it's Burn in Hell. Yeah.
Okay.
Kevin Smith, Burn in Hell. So anyway, he's basically just answering questions about, like making the movie as well as what influenced him to make the movie. And I'm pretty sure it's one of his close friends is gay, and how he kind of stood up to this, Westboro Baptist Church kind of picketing that they tend to do. And so he just decided to make a movie about it. I remember like expecting more going into the movie, and I guess kind of being let down, but I'm sure if I saw it again, knowing what I know now, I would enjoy it a lot more. Did you guys enjoy the movie?
I had pretty much
Red State. Yeah,
I had pretty much that exact same reaction that you did. Only I did see it a second time, and I did enjoy it more the second time.
You did? Okay, yeah. Good to know.
It was really intense. I mean, the violence and it just doesn't really. Once it gets going, it doesn't really stop.
No, I agree.
The ending is a little weird, but I mean,
I agree with you.
But what grabbed me about it was that I have kind of a peculiar, not interest or fascination with Westboro Baptist Church. You can actually, shameless plug, hear me talk about it on the Secular Perspective podcast. I did an episode about them. But there's a pair of really interesting British documentaries by Louis Theroux. Is that his name?
I think so.
Yeah. Where he goes and talks to Westboro Baptist Church people, and it's called America's Most Hated Family. You can hear snippets of it in my Secular Perspective podcast episode. But it's really interesting to see them, and like, I mean, he captured that kind of mentality, cult mentality, behavior, extremist behavior, to a T.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But that's neither here nor there. Red State's a good movie. The cast is stacked, man.
Yeah.
There's some really good actors in it. And the violence is really appropriate for the subject matter of the movie.
Mm-hmm. I've really found that I fancy myself a Michael Parks fan.
Yeah, and he's amazing in it.
I think he's fantastic, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, terrific.
Yeah.
So that's mine.
Cool. Does it come back to me to round it out, I guess?
I think
Sure.
so.
Okay, well, really quickly before I get into the other one, I have 3 here. 2 I'm going to group together. God's Not Dead and Heaven is for Real. God's Not Dead, I've talked ad nauseum about it on the Secular Perspective podcast, and I wrote a review of it, a review/rant on the blog. I'll put links in the show notes and everything. It's just I didn't like it, didn't expect to like it, was offended by it, as my own personal philosophy is concerned. Very one-sided. To contrast it with God on Trial, it's an extraordinarily one-sided debate format of a movie, which is pretty much the antithesis of God on Trial, actually. And then Heaven is for Real. I haven't seen it. Probably not going to see it not because of any personal philosophy for me. If I do see it, I will not pay to see it. I'll sneak in. I'll pay another ticket and sneak in because I'm so adamantly against what they're doing to it. And if you read reviews on Amazon, you'll see that a lot of people from both sides of the religious debate are just disgusted by this movie and book, because I read a review that basically outlined everything that's wrong with what they did. It's about a kid who had appendicitis for like 3 days, and the parents didn't do anything about it. Didn't take him to a doctor. They were on vacation. Took him around to a friend and drove him. When they decided to take him to the doctor, they drove him 3 hours away to go home to go to the hospital. And it turned out that he had appendicitis, and he's puking every half hour the entire ride home. He's like a 3 or 4 year old kid. So he's obviously getting dehydrated and everything. So when he gets under the knife to get his appendix out, of course he's going to have some messed up visions or something, or think he does or whatever. So that's the whole basis of the book. So not only is it glorifying child neglect and all that, it just comes across to me as a cash in. It's exploitative of this child's experience, that they're like, okay, well, and I don't know the burpos or anything, but it just seems like they're making a lot of money off of this story that is predicated off of the fact that they neglected their child for like 72 hours when he had a really horrible medical condition. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's that. And then the last one I want to bring up, and I mean, this doesn't have to be a long one or anything, it can be short. The Mist.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice, yeah.
Stephen King adaptation by Frank Darabont, so that right there just ensures a good time for me, at least. Really cool depiction of religion in it. It's kind of Marcia Gay Harden plays this in my notes I have it written as Yahweh or the Highway kind of religious fanatic who sees that what's going on, because it's a supernatural event that no one has an explanation to. There's monsters in a mist that's covering this entire town. They're confined to the small grocery store, and eventually she's spouting. It starts out with her spouting off this just religious, just really like Old Testament wrath of God religious doctrine stuff, and then eventually, like, everyone's kind of like, okay, well, she's crazy. And then eventually it kind of gets to the point where people they divide up into factions and people start following her. And it's kind of like a little like mini cult in it. Like they reference her as saying like, well, we have our own Jim Jones now. Is it Jim Jones? Yeah. So I just thought it was an interesting depiction of what people, it felt like it, I mean, as real as it can be in that situation and that premise, an interesting view of what man can do when they're under an unknowable stress and they turn to something that is destructive from the outset. Not to say anything about religion or anything. I'm just saying that from that kind of militant religion, kind of thing. So, yeah. So that was it. And there's really good performance in that movie by Toby Jones.
Everybody, really.
Everyone, yeah, everyone. Marcia Gay Harden also fantastic.
I'm going to throw in a quick honorable mention. Sorry.
No, go right ahead.
Go for it.
If you haven't seen the movie Life of Brian, see it. It is hysterical. It is a Monty Python movie, especially if you're Catholic, because there's a scene where it involves writing in Latin, and that's if you ever went to Catholic school, you had to learn some Latin, and it's a hard thing to learn, and it's not something that kids are very good at grasping, and it just absolutely cracked me up personally. They turned a public stoning someone to death into a hilarious scene.
Nice.
Brilliant movie. Definitely watch it.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, there's so many more we can talk about, obviously.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
this is a very broad topic. I mean, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Last Crusade, all these movies. But we're about out of time. We should switch to, we want to do Potpourri?
Yeah, we could definitely go on with this forever, but I think we're kind of running out of time. But there's always time for that which we love most, and that's things that smell good, Potpourri. Of course, everybody knows Potpourri is where we talk about anything we want, things we've seen, things we're looking forward to seeing, or just things we're thinking about or obsessively viewing. So, Tiny, what do you want to tell us about?
I wanted to talk about some news that kind of came out. I was kind of wanting your guys' opinion on it. I guess at WonderCon over the weekend, I think it was, there was some footage of the new Godzilla movie. And that movie looks awesome.
Yeah, it really does.
I don't know if we talked about it much on here yet.
I don't think so either.
It looks awesome. But I guess they're describing it as leaked footage from the movie. I guess you get some extensive footage of Godzilla, the actual monster. And of course you can go see it online if you want. I haven't watched it. Excuse me. I'm kind of curious, what your guys' opinion on that is. If it's leaked footage, I mean, would you watch it? I guess it's only a couple minutes. It's not like it's the whole movie or anything, or 20 minutes. It's only a couple minutes. But do you guys think it's kind of you're kind of selling yourself short to watch something like that, or do you think it's okay to go for it?
Oh, absolutely! Don't watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's an interesting. It's an interesting question because, I mean, they just released. I mean, this isn't really the same thing, but they just released the first 5 minutes of How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Right.
Which with movies, I can understand seeing clips and stuff. If you see an actor or something on a talk show that's promoting it and they have a short clip, I can see that being kind of your thing. But I mean, I don't seek out this stuff. I mean, I'll watch a trailer because it's made to promote the movie for me. And I'll kind of figure out if the marketing team does a good job. I'll want to see it. But I won't seek out clips or anything like that. Especially with a movie like Godzilla, which, I mean, it's got this it's a monster movie. I want to wait and see the monster. When Cloverfield came out, there was this big mystery over what's the monster going to look like? And, if you pause this frame right here and watch this frame and extend it and go 2 frames ahead, you can see just the back of the Cloverfield monster. And you can figure out, I'm why go through all that?
Yeah, I agree.
The movie's going to come out in a month. But with and it's quadruple that feeling toward watching promos and clips for TV shows a week before they come out, which I just think is just ridiculous because it's such a finite runtime for a television show that why would you want to see clips of something that you're going to watch in a week?
Right.
So yeah.
I have the same opinion, especially something like this. Like you said, you're robbing yourself of a tense reveal in a monster movie. Why?
Yeah.
You're robbing yourself of that enjoyment. So
right. Funny side note, a bit of promotion for a friend of the show. Intermission Podcast, they had an episode where I think it was Josh on the podcast. He gave a pre-review of Godzilla, where it was basically he just outlined what he thought the whole plot was going to be. It was pretty funny. I'll throw a link in the show notes for it, but it was pretty funny.
Cool.
So yeah, that's cool. So that's what you got for Potpourri?
Yep.
Cool. Is it?
Do you want me to go next, or do you want to go last?
I'll go last. It's cool, I guess.
Okay, sure. I'll talk about a movie, The Raid 2.
Oh, nice. Did you see it?
I did see it.
Nice. I haven't seen it yet.
Yep. Okay. I hated it so much.
Did you? Oh, that's such a bummer.
I really did. And I want to bring it up. I wouldn't have brought it up except the reviews for it are through the roof.
Really?
Now, when I say the reviews, I mean the message boards.
Okay.
The lay people are calling it a masterpiece of martial arts cinema. They're calling it leaps and bounds better than the first one, and they're saying it possibly the best movie of the year, certainly the best action movie of the year.
Holy crap.
None of those things are true, and I'm kind of having an existential moment. Like, what did I miss about this movie?
Huh.
I hated it so much. And more than anything, I was let down because the first one is so freaking awesome.
Yo, I love the first one. I talked about it.
The first Raid is fantastic, and it's fantastically simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome because it's simple, and the fight scenes are probably the best fight scenes I have ever seen in a movie.
Yeah.
Now that you could say the fight scenes in the Raid 2 are impressive. They are absolutely impressive. Certainly fun to watch. However, they break like every sequel rule, and if sequel rule number one is to always go bigger and better than the first one, it certainly did not do that. It was incredibly boring. The script was heinous and offensively bloated, and needlessly confusing. So I'm thrown for a loop trying to figure out why people love this movie so much. I cannot believe it. So halfway through the movie, I turned to my buddy who was also pissed, like visibly sad because he liked the first one even more than I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I have a theory, and I'm going to tell you at the end of the movie what my theory is.
Okay.
And so when it was over, I said, I am as certain as I have ever been that this is a spec script, that this was a movie written for something else that they borrowed and placed the guy from the first Raid into it.
Wow.
Ooh.
So when I get home, I look it up. Turns out I was right. It was a movie called Barandal that they tried to make, and they couldn't get the funding, so they made the first Raid. And when that was successful, they made the Raid 2, and they used the character from the first one to put it in. I don't freaking understand. No, I don't understand how these people on the internet missed that, because it was frustrating the entire movie long. And I couldn't believe what people are saying about this movie, because it is so clearly a spec script for another movie that Rama, the main character, doesn't even fit.
Jeez.
It was an incredibly frustrating movie experience.
Huh.
And it'll
That's a
probably
shame.
wind up on my worst movies of the year list.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is a shame.
That is my concerns going into it. I mean, I haven't seen it yet, but my main concern was that it's 2.5 hours long. And Mike,
an hour too long.
Okay, yeah, because I know I was kind of curious what you would think of that, because I know that like you and I'm sure all of us are really precious with our time as we grow older. But I saw one trailer and I thought, okay, it looks kind of cool. It's not going to be in an apartment block or whatever. It's going to be kind of open world, if you will, but.
I wished deeply that it was.
Yeah, it was. That's such a bummer, because it's, and it's not, as far as being a spec script reappropriated for an existing franchise or whatever. That's worked in the past. I'm a huge fan of Saw 2. I might be in the minority there. But I mean, like Jigsaw fits in that movie.
Sure.
So. That sounds like just a huge.
Yeah, there are like 20-minute chunks where our main character is not in the movie.
Jeez.
Oh man,
Ugh.
what a blunder! That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
It is. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't let you guys down, but
No, I haven't even
I
seen
hope
the
I
first
didn't
one,
bum you
so-
guys out.
No,
you haven't
no.
seen the first one?
No, I haven't.
Oh, please do. But
I will.
avoid the second one like the plague.
Yeah.
If I had seen the second one first, I probably would have said this is not a great movie, but the fight scenes are really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of saw that with some newbies who hadn't seen the first one, and they kind of had that to say about it. The first one was not precious to them at all, and so they were kind of like, "Yeah, it was all right. It was kind of fun to watch, kind of confusing, but whatever." And I just hated it because I knew how excellent the first one was.
Yeah. And what surprises me about that is that they've had the second one in the works and a third one kind of greenlit. I think it's been planned as a trilogy.
Yes.
So that's so anachronistic, I guess, to the idea of that they would just use an existing script to reappropriate it for this thing when they have another sequel in the pipeline. Like, why not make it a cohesive story, an original story? I mean, people are going to go to see it for the martial arts and everything. But I mean, at least make it a little bit of a flair with storytelling, I guess.
I wonder if it was a for monetary reasons, like how studios will buy up scripts and just never use them and just let them sit forever. They'll just shelf them forever. I wonder if it was a thing where like, well, we don't want to pay the original writers to come back because we're going to have to pay them a whole bunch of money to get them to come back and make a sequel. So we're just going to reappropriate this script that we bought for like $5,000 10 years ago. Yeah. I wonder if it was a case of that.
That sounds likely. Yeah. That's a bummer.
It is a bummer. I'm sorry if you guys were looking forward to that one, or Matt, if you were looking forward to that one.
I was, but I mean, I wasn't in a hurry to go see it. When it came out in theaters, I was like, oh, I'm going to go see it. And then I was like, wait, it's 2.5 hours long. I need to sleep. So maybe when it comes out on DVD or something, I might check it out. Yeah. But I'm not going to be in a hurry now because, wow. Yeah. So should I go now to round us out?
Take us out.
All right. Well, my potpourri is a couple news items that I read today. The first one is, we're not going to have a lot to talk about with this one, but Aaron Sorkin kind of apologized for the Newsroom.
Yeah.
In no uncertain terms, I guess. Like, he was kind of like, I didn't expect it to be this kind of movie or this kind of show that was supposed to be about the muck-ups of journalists or whatever. He just wanted a contemporary story based in the contemporary world, but with real stories, news stories and all that. And I mean, I like the Newsroom. I don't think that the premise of the show or the time frame of the show is what he should apologize for. Because honestly, I think that's one of the best parts of it. It was renewed for a third season, but the third season is going to be the final season, and it's only going to be 6 episodes. But it's not a show that I feel should have been apologized for in that way. A lot of people give a lot of flack. I don't know. It's a good show. It's Sorkin, quick dialogue, back into kind of the, I don't know the words I'm looking for, but kind of a present day, using the backdrop of news stories, of present day news stories, as kind of a running force of the show, I guess. But something that they got really, a lot of people kind of disparaged the show about is the relationship between Will McAvoy, played by Jeff Daniels, yeah, and Mackenzie McHale by Emily Mortimer, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm so glad I got those names right. I'm so tired, guys. But anyway, that's a much maligned relationship in the show, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, you guys can hate on that and everything, but it's Sorkin. I mean, I hate to put a negative tone to anything about the guy, because I mean he's a brilliant screenwriter, but he's a master of dialogue. He's a genius of dialogue, and I think his weak point has always been in depicting relationships. I mean, I didn't think that in Studio 60, the central relationship with that show with Amanda Peet and Bradley Whitford, I don't think that was as strong as it was supposed to be. The chemistry was a little off, and the dialogue just didn't seem like real relationship kind of stuff.
You're nuts.
I know that's
nuts.
just how I feel, and I just think that that's always been kind of a weak point, and he got some flack for the depiction of women in The Social Network also. And it was just, I mean, I'm just like, okay, that comes with the territory, but I mean, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird that he's apologizing for something that, I mean, he should, like the last episode of the second season of The Newsroom ended with this really hokey scene between Will McAvoy and Mackenzie McHale that was like, okay, that's what you need to apologize for.
It's such a recycled plot point for him too. He's literally used it at least once in every single show.
Yeah,
it was in Newsnight, it was in West Wing, it was in Studio 60, and it's basically used twice in The Newsroom.
Yeah,
he does it amazingly well, though. I disagree with Matt on this.
Well,
The Newsroom is probably the weakest example of it. I'll give you that.
Yeah. I just, and to his credit, like, to those people that say that condemn him for the relationship in that show, it's still like you can still commend him for the relationship between Olivia Munn and what's his name, Sadusky, Don in the show. Because I thought that was like throughout the second season they were building up this kind of relationship kind of thing between those two, and I'm like, wow, Sorkin finally gets it. Because then again, like I said, relationships with Sorkin, I'm not that keen on those. That's the one blemish of his screenwriting that I'm not a fan of. But anyway, so I thought that was an interesting piece of news. But the other piece of news that also ties back to Sorkin really quick is that I just read that David Fincher is not going to do the Sorkin's Steve Jobs movie.
Mm-hmm.
But they currently have in talks Danny Boyle to direct the Steve Jobs movie. And his
that was my mind blowing.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, Maddie?
Oh, I'm so happy. I hope that
How many pairs
it
of pants did you go through today?
A lot. A lot. No, I'm so happy for multiple reasons. I mean, I really, really liked Trance. I need to watch it again, but I'm so excited for him to kind of, if he takes this job or he's able to get this job.
Takes this job?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
This job.
Yeah. Well, if he makes this movie,
If he makes this Steve.
Yeah, I'm excited for him to go back to kind of the awards movie kind of genre, I guess, because Trance was a good movie, but it was very much early Boyle movie, I guess.
I'm excited when he does anything.
Yeah. Oh, me too. Too. And what's really cool about it, and it's funny because the casting is kind of weird, but he wants to get his first choice is Leo DiCaprio, which. Like the article that I read that said, I think it was on Slash Film, said, which is funny because Danny Boyle looks more like Steve Jobs than Leo DiCaprio does.
Yeah.
I
think Mark Ruffalo might be good.
Oh, that would be a good one.
Yeah.
I'm sure we've talked about it before, but do you know what the script is?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not a biopic. It's a 3 30-minute real-time scenes that each are a part of a different Apple launch, like the first computer, the first laptop or something, the first iPod.
Huh.
Right.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it's Sorkin. As long as they don't talk about his relationship with his wife or whatever, he's golden.
Sorkin can pull it off.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So that's my potpourri. I thought that was cool.
Cool.
Hopefully that comes to fruition.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, we've been yammering a lot. Should we go ahead and put a cap on this one?
Let's do it.
All right.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Well done.
Nice.
Thanks.
Nice. All right. Well, as always, thank you for listening to the Obsessive Viewer podcast, and thank you to Star Tissue for providing our awesome opening theme music. You can find more of their music at soundcloud.com/startissue. The link is also in the show notes if you'd like it to find it there. If you could, make sure to rate and review us on iTunes. It doesn't take long, and it really helps us out a lot. Also, if you want to, vote for us for Podcast of the Month at podcastland.com. Doesn't take long either. You just give them your email address. They don't spam you or anything, and it'll also help us out a lot. As for us, you can follow us on Twitter. You can find me, Matt, at Obsessive Viewer. Tiny is at Obsessive Tiny, and Mike is at I am Mike White. And you can also check out the Obsessive Viewer blog at obsessiveviewer.com. I've been reviewing every episode of Bates Motel and the second season of House of Cards, so check those out if those are what you want or if that's what you're into. Man. Not to mention you'll find plenty of movie reviews and industry commentary and just crap that's on my mind. You can also check out obsessivebooknerd.com for book reviews. We have a lot of cool stuff in the pipeline for that. I'm going to be reviewing every collected trade paperback of The Walking Dead leading up to the next season. So I just put that out there so that I'm going to commit myself to that. Holy crap.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that's that. So check that out at obsessivebooknerd.com. The first review should drop on May 18th. Yeah, and then also check out, appropriate for this episode's content, check out the secularperspective.com. That's Tiny's side project of podcast about his secularism that I contribute to fairly regularly. Yeah, and that about does it. You can also email us anything you want. Cat pics, topic discussion points, your reviews, audio files of you talking about movies or TV shows, anything you want, you can email us at ovpodcast@gmail.com. And that about does it. Also, we'll be at Indie PopCon next month, May 31st to June 2nd here in Indianapolis at the Convention Center. It's going to be a blast. We have a lot of stuff that we're going to give away, and we have a lot of cool stuff planned. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Me too.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome. So, yeah, that about does it. So, yeah, I guess I have an hour before I have to get ready for work. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, everyone.
Thanks for listening, guys.
And there was something else I was going to say about that, but I can't remember. Oh, speaking of Westboro Baptist Church, just randomly, they said that they're going to picket the Indy 500. So
Sure,
that's lovely.
Of course.
Yeah, when I saw that, I posted it on the Secular Perspective Facebook page, which you can like on Facebook, and said that hey, look at us, we're still relevant. Because that's
Nice.
kind of
Well played.
Yeah, that's just kind of because they're just grabbing for attention, and